So, welcome to our 33rd episode of Duels Across the Stars. This episode today, our topic is a story or film containing events that precede those of an existing work, aka Top 5 Prequels. I'm Ben, and my co host today is.
Olympus, I love that intro. That was amazing. This episode is exactly that. And you have just provided my one and only rule. That is it, the definition of a prequel. That to a T. Beautiful. Love it.
Yeah, so before we go on to what our rules are, I'm going to just say thank you for being here. You find our details in the bottom. Press like, subscribe, and we will love you eternally. And this is, if you didn't know, where we're going to match up Star Trek and Star Wars against each other in our top 5 prequels. That bit we did say, but let's get on to the rules that we've got. I think Olympus has just said what his is, and mine and mine are going to be off that really. So I've been very precise in what my rules are for this, for what I consider a prequel and what I consider original work. So it's not just a New Hope or the original trilogy for Star Trek, and it's not just the original series for. I've got these the wrong way around for Star Trek and the original trilogy and A New Hope for Star Wars. It is certain could be other works in that I'm going to be using for the original one. So Strange New Worlds, I'm not going to consider a prequel. I'm considering, and bear in mind, we've got sequels coming up at the beginning of next year, so it's not going to be anything in that. So, Strange New Worlds, I'm considering a sequel to Discovery because you had the Pike from there and such like.
Ooh. See,
And
I have made an error as well with my picks, and I realised it too late, and I thought, you know what, sod it, I'm just going to keep it as it is and deal with it later. But some of my picks you could very well deem as being a sequel instead of a prequel. So yeah, it's going to make a potential future episode a little bit more interesting.
definitely. And there is a certain game that I'm going to be, for the sake of this, even though I've said it otherwise before, I'm going to consider calling this calling it a sequel to two other games for the case of this.
Sure.
So, shall we get on with our five list then? Tell
Let's.
you what, I want to go. Yeah, that's. So, I'm going to say I want to go first just because I want you to have the last pick, if that's okay.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. For this pick, for my number 5 pick, I'm going to have a flashback. I'm going to have a flashback to the Undiscovered Country, the film. And this is a 30th anniversary episode for Star Trek Voyager. Deep Space Nine did one at the same time, and that was for they done the episode Trials and Tribulations, so reference to the TOS episodes, Trials and Tribulations. I think I've got those the right way. This one was a set the scene. You have the bit at the beginning, and you come across this nebula thingy majiggy, and then randomly, Tuvok gets a little bit ill, and gets a little bit of a memory of a person falling off pacifist. I can't even say it, but off a cliff.
Precipice.
Thank you very much. And in his infinite wisdom, he has a mind meld with Captain Janeway to try to help work out what's going on. And he goes back to a previous job he had and a previous career in Starfleet on the USS Excelsior with Captain Sulu during the during the activities of the Undiscovered Country. Funny enough, Tim Russ, he was the actor for Tuvok, was actually in that film as one of the characters on the bridge, but he didn't have Vulcan ears. So this may be like a red con on this one, but for me, this is a prequel episode to the Undiscovered Country, because this is showing the activities of what's happening on the Excelsior. Well, Kirk and McCoy are in prison on Royal Pente, and before they go to pick him up, rescue him there. So you get to see the explosion at Praxis, which you do see in the film. The cup, I think you even see the cup get broken again, and you have a lot of the cast there that were on the bridge at the time of the Excelsior's activities there, and you even have Janeway meeting Sulu, Captain Sulu at the time, which was great. You have Ran there. Uh, he was up on the bridge. In my head, it was a great episode, and it was a great flashback to the activities of what the other ship was doing while Enterprise was busy. Any thoughts, Olympus?
Fantastic first pick, especially because it's come from inside an episode. It's not even a full episode in itself. So, very, very clever, um, and very, very memorable. One of my favorite episodes of Voyager.
Yeah. So that's the only one that's going to be partial of an episode. Okay, about three-quarters of the episode, but it's partial episode. All the rest are going to be a bit more of the episode film or trilogy
Yeah.
or. Yes, what's your number five pick?
So I'm gonna go to Star Wars, and I'm going to talk very, very briefly about the Bad Batch. So the Bad Batch is an animated series. It follows the same animation style as the Clone Wars. It's set just at the very end of the Clone Wars. Pretty much, actually, the first episode kicks off as Order 66 plays out. And it follows a ragtag group of, let's call them defective clones, who they had formed their own unit, and they deployed tactics and carried out missions in very unorthodox ways. So they were referred to by everyone else across the clone army and outside of it as the Bad Batch. You get to follow their story through, I think it's 4 seasons, and it takes you through the end of the prequel trilogy of movies in a sense, and starts to show you the deconstruction of the um of the Republic and the formation of the Galactic Empire over time. There's some politics involved in it, but it's done in a very creative, very interesting way. You don't see too much of it either. It's all very much focused on these defective troopers who need to find their way in a universe even more ostracized than how they were when they were a part of the clone army. It's very, very interesting. Lots of great characters through it. And yeah, the character development you see throughout is sensational. The story is brilliant. You've got some twists and turns you don't expect at points too. And yeah, it felt like a lovely sort of continuation of the Clone Wars series without being focused on the Jedi. So yes, that's my number five. And I will
Wow.
say here, all of my top five have moved around multiple times. This is really, really tough. I'd call this top tier prequel stuff. But yeah, there's my number five.
Oh, cool. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you got that. Okay, we've still got four picks, but that's not the one I was expecting to come into this.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, obviously
let's
prequel.
see.
It's still set at the tail end of the prequel series of movies, and it's obviously a pre original trilogy of movies. Trying to think. Yes, it definitely is. It's even pre the likes of Solo and Rogue One.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, so in my head, there was four ones that I'm pretty sure that were either going to be in or very close to being this, and let's see at the end how close I am because I'm keeping this in my head, but it's
Interesting. Oh, and then what's your number four?
oh. So I'm going to stay in the Star Wars universe, and talking about Rogue One, I'm going to go with Andor
Hmm.
first season because the other one's still to due out at the moment, so sometime next year, I believe. But I'm going to go with first season Andor, and I absolutely love going around the town where he's from, meeting. I don't think it's his mother, but um, the is it? I think it's his mother. I can't remember. Was the droid?
And
It's been so long since I've done a
I
just
think it's
a
kind of adoptive kind of relationship. I'm not 100% sure because I've only watched the series once, as phenomenal as it is. I think it's a kind of weird adopted but not quite adopted situation.
yeah, and the baddies with his mum as well after he got sacked, and then trying to settle to try to find Andor. The prison scenes episodes. This was a season series for the long run, so from beginning to end. But yeah, you get to see the life of your day to day people in the Empire and the Republic. Okay, you do see some of the big guns like Mon Mothma, but she's the exception. And even then, she's not one of the. She is one of the big guns, but she's not one of the big guns you regularly see in the original trilogy. So like Han Solo and Luke Skywalker and Yoda, etc. And just yeah, absolutely love their relationships and interactions with each other and the build up to Rogue One, which we haven't got to yet. But yeah, I kind of dug that quite a lot. Is yeah, the day to day life of your dodgy people. That's probably the best way of putting it for even the best of them for your dodgy people. So, any more thoughts?
No, nothing much more to add apart from I really need to watch it a second time because I like watching series I enjoy multiple times, and I've only got around to watching it the once so far, and it made quite an
Yeah,
impact. Several episodes through it in particular, there were one or two that were maybe a little bit slower, but I felt they needed to be that slow on purpose. And every episode had its place and added up to, they all contributed to the total story that it was telling. So no, brilliant. I'm really happy you picked that.
so in that case, what's your number four pick?
I'm going to stick with Star Wars animation and talk about Rebels, which follows a. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe him. I guess a little rebel, must be late teens character called Ezra Bridger. He comes across another ragtag group, I guess, similar to the Bad Batch in a sense, but these guys aren't clones. Uh, and ends up going off on adventures with them, fighting the Empire. You're essentially seeing the build up of what becomes the rebellion that works through. Oh my God, you've got the ghost. Oh Ben,
Yeah.
or give it a
So,
twirl around. Give it a twirl around.
so if anybody's ever, oh, not ever, uh, so anybody who's watched our or listened to our top five games episode, I do mention the game that this model's from. So,
I
and that's
want it. I
the
want it for my display case.
yeah, it's from Star Wars X Wings, the original edition. So the tabletop game where you get to play fighty, almost war games in style for this. So this is the ghost from that season or series.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Anyway, you were saying,
Oh no, I've forgotten. I'm too enamored by that ship. Oh yeah. Watch it just for the ship, guys. You get attached to her. So yeah, it's this little ragtag group of freedom fighters out to fight the Empire and essentially spark the rebellion. You get some guest stars coming in at different varying points through the series as it, I guess, evolves and becomes a little bit more adult, let's say. It starts very similarly to the Clone Wars. The first season or so feels a little bit childish, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it does feel like it's a lot more geared towards children. And then when it finds its footing, it starts exploring all those great themes that you love Star Wars to explore, and it does it in very serious and very brilliant ways. You see, in particular, Ahsoka return, which is brilliant. She became one of my favorite Star Wars characters through the Clone Wars. So you see her returning, you see her periodically returning, and you see a couple of familiar enemies, which I won't say who in case you haven't watched it. I mean, it's been a long time, guys, so come on, go watch it. But yeah, I won't talk much more about it apart to say that it's another brilliant example of Star Wars animated TV that really, really delivers a true, proper sense of what Star Wars is meant to be.
Thank you. No, it is, and there's some nice characters in that I got to really love when I watched Ahsoka TV series. So
Oh, and Ben, sorry, yeah, that's the thing when you say about lovely characters, you're missing one that you only see a glimpse of in Ahsoka, and that's Kanan Jarrus, who is played by Freddie Prinze Jr. So there is, if you look closely when you watch Ahsoka, in one scene when you're on the Ghost, there's a picture in the background. Um, I think it's in the cockpit
I remember, yeah.
of Freddie Prinze Jr. dressed up as Kanan Jarrus as a little nod to the character, which is lovely. And you understand why
I
that's
didn't know it
there.
was the person. I didn't realize it was the voice actor in that picture. So
Same person,
yeah,
yeah. And you you realize the significance of that as well if you've watched Rebels properly.
I've
Um,
only watched early episodes of it, so I haven't got around to completing it. Uh,
yeah,
so
Hera, um, Hera and Kanan have a thing. That's all I'll say about it.
fortunately, I think it is spoiled in Ahsoka. Uh,
It is right at
what
the
that thing
start,
is, but
but then it's not spoiled, is it? Because you should really watch Rebels first. I mean,
yes, but
Ahsoka is just Rebels season 5. Lost track of the number of seasons in that now. It's just the next season of Rebels, and it's brilliant. But anyway, more on that potentially later.
yeah, we're not here to talk about the show Ahsoka, even though I really, really enjoyed it. So that's fine. So this is my number three pick, and I've done a
Hmm.
similar thing to what I did in the my number five pick, and I've got a sequel to a film.
Ooh,
This is a sequel to a First Contact film, and
first contact
I tell
film.
you what, First Contact film. I don't know if you can guess this at all. At all.
Sequel to a first contact film
Oh,
that's also a prequel.
prequel. Sorry, prequel. I meant to say prequel. Sorry, I don't know where I got that from.
Prequel
So
to a
this is a
first
prequel to
contact film.
Concept.
Well, First Contact is a Star Trek movie, so right away I'm going to say you're talking about First Contact itself. Prequel to that,
Yes,
you're going to be talking about Generations.
not quite.
In
No,
that case, you're going to be talking about Star Trek The Next Generation.
no, I'm not.
In that
I'm talking about from the
case.
series Enterprise,
Oh, you're
which is
talking about the episode where they find the
prequel.
ball buried into the ice in
Yes,
Antarctica or the
correct.
Arctic. I can't remember which.
So, so it'll be the Arctic Circle. I think I'm pretty sure it's the Arctic. And yes, this wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for the goings on of First Contact, where the Borg sent a spear out to time travel to change Earth's history.
Naughty
and
boy.
change first contact. It
Hmm.
is, and you did see an image of that briefly when they were traveling in time on the Enterprise D for this occasion. And yeah, at the beginning of the episode, yeah, you get this icy cold scene of let's just call it the North Pole, because that's where they are, and it's like yeah, you've got various huts, and you can see them trying to find some stuff, and yeah, you find this couple of Borgs underneath the ice, and then oh, the stuff there looks like it's an perfect spear, and yeah, it's going through what the what is left over of the incidents was first contact where they blew it up, and this goes back. What I think makes it a prequel is the actual signal they send at the end back to the Delta Quadrant. Once they've destroyed those escape Borg that came back to life, is actually the signal the Borg received to say these guys are worth assimilating, not because of the incident with TNG that Q sent them on anymore. This changed. That is, this message, or at least implied that this message helped uh, the Borg prepare early for this, for their first invasion on the back to Earth, because they said we thought we had more time, and no, they didn't, because of an incident in that future at the time, causing a temporal problem. It made sure they got the message earlier,
It's
or
it's
message.
it's funny, isn't it? I love the paradoxical ways that Star Trek can work. You know, the Borg send a signal in the era of Enterprise NX-01 out to the Delta Quadrant saying, "Come here, assimilate these people." And that act in itself completes the circle and ultimately leads to those Borg being stranded there in the first place.
Yes,
Brilliant.
precisely. It is, and yeah, this is a perfect. Yeah, you can watch this in any order you want to, and this is going to give you the answer. Yeah, to the or the ball. You can watch several of the TNG episodes as well. Going, yes, this is the show. This is the story of the Borg, and it's all connected. Timey wimey,
Timey-wimey,
and
as the Doctor would say, beautifully connected.
yeah. So, and it's one of my favourite prize episodes. It'll probably get in my top five if I'm not counting the trilogies of episodes in those as multiple episodes. If that is, it may get a little bit lower, but it's definitely definitely up as one of my favourite episodes. So I haven't
Oh,
really gone
brilliant.
into much into what the episode's about, but go out and watch it, guys.
Definitely do. It's well worth a watch. One of the best Enterprise episodes for sure. Which takes me to my number three. And you said we weren't here to talk about this, so I'm gonna railroad you and I'm gonna talk about it, and that is Ahsoka.
Oh wow,
it
cool.
it is a prequel. It is a prequel to the sequel trilogy, if there could be such a thing.
Very true.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's one of my favorite Star Wars televised series. Thank heavens it's coming up for a season two as well. It obviously did so well with the first season, which I'm very pleased about. And it's exactly what it says in the tin. It is following the story of Ahsoka from some period of time after the events of the Battle of Yavin. And I've lost my train of thought for a moment. And it is very much a continuation of the Rebels animated series. So you've got a lot of the same characters in there. They're all coming back together to tackle the next big evil threat. It's Thrawn. Um, but watch
What?
it. Dun dun dun. Um,
Ta-da!
on on the note of Thrawn for a second, I'm going to take a sidestep and say I'm actually in the process of reading one of the Thrawn novels. It is amazing, and I just hear his voice every time I read his text. It's phenomenal. Go out and read the Thrawn books;
Oh,
they're great.
respected trilogy.
Oh yeah. Um, so yeah, it's following Ahsoka and I guess the remnants of the Rebels crew, or most of them. You know, you see Hera, you see Chopper, you've got Ahsoka, you've got Hu Yang makes a lovely appearance. I'm really glad that Ahsoka found Hu Yang, played by none other than a rather famous doctor. I was about to say if you're in the UK, but the Americans know about them, know about them quite well too. Mr. David
Bit
Tennant,
timey-wimey again, I think.
very timey-wimey, this episode in particular. And he gets to say that famous phrase. It's the first time you'll ever hear it said in Star Wars itself. And I'm not going to tell you, you have to go away and watch it to find out. But it's brilliant. And of course you can't talk about Rebels or Ahsoka and not talk about Sabine Wren, who is one of my favorite characters in both those series. Actually, she's fantastic. But I find Ahsoka great. It's still very Star Wars grounding. You get some great additional characters throughout it, whether it's Morgan Elspeth, who continues the portrayal of that character beautifully, or Balin Skull, who again is portrayed absolutely brilliantly. His apprentice is great too. There's lots of little twists and turns, and what I love about season one of Ahsoka is that I won't ruin it, but the stakes are high, and it may not necessarily be the happy ending people would want. And that's very real and really creates just how much of a threat Thrawn is. I've probably said too much, but again, it's been out for ages. If you've not watched it, tut you, go watch it now. Ahsoka, my number three.
I'd absolutely love that, and I think it's very much out there. Like episode I've picked from Voyager being like a sequel of a prequel sort of thing, and
Yes.
sort of
The thing is,
a
the
prequel to a
Star
sequel sort of thing, and yes,
Yeah, the Star Wars universe is so big now. There's so much media available that really you could pick almost any element of the entire saga and call it either a sequel or a prequel of something. It's huge.
yeah, and most people, I don't know, I could be wrong on here, consider like the films and the trilogies the main storyline that goes forward, whatever, and they do things off that. So yeah, so in theory, like you have the prequels out there, and if you do the other ones before in there, yeah, they can in theory count as a sequel. So almost like Star Trek, you would have had it was the TNG, kept going. The main line is going off like original series, animated series, their films, TNG, Voyager, etc., and up to like Discovery. And you can think anything before that is almost a prequel of uh, those. And yeah, I love Ahsoka. I love the characters, whether it's Ahsoka, Ren, um, the villain Skull was amazing. He's in my top five villains, so go out and watch that. And there's definitely one of the picks from one of us had one of those characters in our top five outfits, I believe. So go and watch that as well. Sorry, plugs alert, plugs alert.
Look at
And
everywhere, mate.
actually, yeah. And thinking about Rebels, that picture they had early on of them on the back wall there of all the cast in animated form in Rebel style was absolutely amazing.
It really pays homage to the Rebels TV series. And what else is that picture is in the Rebels TV series. You see it towards the end. So yeah, it brings it across there too. So it's both immersion grounding in terms of the lore and a lovely little nod to what came before it.
Definitely, absolutely, definitely. And thank you for picking it. I Yeah, I've adored that series. probably the one I've adored most of all the TV series is from Star Wars.
Same,
Now,
exact same.
now, my number two pick definitely can be a sequel and a prequel for this one. It is a sequel to multiple episodes of Star Trek, and it's a prequel to an original series. No, sorry, it's a prequel to lots of a whole series or line of stories from Star Trek, and it's a prequel. Hang on, I'm getting myself muddled up here.
It's timey-wimey.
Rewind.
It's
Yeah,
timey-wimey.
it's a prequel. It's a prequel to a group of episodes from multiple different TV series in Star Trek, and it's a sequel to one episode of the original series of Star Trek. So, in theory, I could have it on both my lists, very justified for this. And that's a two-part episode from the fourth season of Star Trek, episode 18 and 19, and that's In a Mirror Darkly.
Fantastic. And I'm just going to take a moment to say congratulations, Ben, for getting through that mind-boggling sentence. That was timey-wimey indeed.
It is. And yeah, just got myself tongue-tied there. If anybody doesn't know, one of the origins, or if not the origin of the evil-looking goatee beard, is the mirror universe of Star Trek with Spock. And that started in the original series, went through to Deep Space Nine, and I can't remember if we had it in No, we didn't have it in Voyager. We've had it in Discovery as well,
Hmm.
and the Enterprise era version doesn't actually have the crew going back to the or into the mirror universe, because the first time they saw it in theory was the original series or Discovery, which they don't talk about because they've got it under restriction. It's an actual 2 episode run of it's all completely set in the mirror universe, and the story is run from the mirror universe's point of view and doesn't involve the other guys coming back, other than one thing, and that is the USS Defiant, which we originally saw in the episode The Folian Web in the original series, where it suddenly disappeared and went somewhere, and we had no idea until the 2000s, where we found it in the mirror universe, where the crew of the Enterprise NX-01 went and found it and got dressed up in the uniforms of the original series crew. And you had all uh, the mirror stuff going on, shenanigans, backstabbing, involving lots of people. Again, I'm not going to completely spoil it in case you haven't watched it, but it's a lot of fun seeing everybody play their evil versions of themselves and finding out what happened to Discovery, them looking around the original series ship, which is a Constitution class, just like Enterprise 1701. Yeah, it's full of backstabbing and a great. One of the things that are great from the thing, this is another First Contact reference. They changed the one of the scenes in First Contact, and that was the scene where Zefram Cochrane met the Vulcans. So went to shake his hand, and went to do the Vulcan salute, but failed. And instead of just trying and going to shake hand, he gun out and shot him, and everybody went on the Vulcan ship. So I'll spoil that one to start with because it's very early on in the episode. But any thoughts?
Love that change to what happened in history. That tells you that you're looking at the mirror universe right away. It was a great intro to it. in general, that two part is great, and again, one that I've not watched enough. I've only watched it a couple of times. Um, Seeing the adaptation of the Enterprise uniforms for starters before they then move on to wearing the TOS uniforms, and as you say, just seeing all of the evil, no good activities and the backstabbing and the plotting and the twisting. Very Romulan, actually, when you think about it. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's a lovely change of pace for a series like Enterprise to do something like that. And generally, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but it always appears like the cast have a lot of fun when they get to play alter egos of their characters.
yeah, definitely. I'm going to just say you have three different captains throughout this show. That's episode or two episodes, and I'm going to say captains. Yeah, I'm going to say captains. And you also have a new version of Porthos, the dog, as well for the beagle. He's not a beagle in a mirror darkly, so I won't spoil that one.
He's too cute to be in the Mirror Universe.
Definitely. And what's your number two pick? Changing tones.
So I'm going to keep a Star Trek, move forward in time and universe a little bit, and talk about
Ooh.
Strange New Worlds. Pick that you said at the
Oh,
start you don't consider a prequel. It's one of those that you could look at either ways. I see Strange New Worlds very much as a prequel to the original series. I know you've got the Cage, and by the way, the Cage has just celebrated, I think, 60 years
wow.
since release. So congratulations to the Cage. So yeah, let's forget about the Cage for a moment, though. Happy birthday, go away. And instead think about the rest of TOS. And if you think about the rest of TOS, it's very much a prequel for that. Um,
Oh God, yes.
I mean, they've delivered it brilliantly. I mean, for the start, if you look at the Enterprise, it's an amalgamation, I guess, of the design from the original series and the refits of the Enterprise that you see as well. They've kept to the original aesthetic of it in a sense, whilst also make it look shiny and sort of modern sci-fi at the same time, which is beautiful to see. And the cast are phenomenal. They've managed to take characters which in the 60s just didn't gel with the target audience, so they had to completely go back to the drawing board and turn them into really captivating characters that you care about. And that in part might be because you're looking at a different audience, in the 2020s versus the 1960s. I don't want to do the maths around how long ago that was. So that might be a part of it. Maybe it was a little bit too ahead of its time, maybe. But it's
Maybe.
wonderful getting to explore all of these characters that we barely got to see much of from the Cage, and it's been done so far beautifully. The series has been fantastic. The storylines have been great. It's proper Star Trek at its core, and I love it to bits. And special hats off to Anson Mount, who plays Christopher Pike. I mean, the introduction of his character in Discovery was done very, very well. And I know that Discovery can be a hot topic for a lot of fans, but I personally loved the first couple of seasons at the very least. I won't go any further than that for now. I did enjoy the other seasons for different reasons, but the first couple of seasons I did really enjoy. And if it wasn't for the success of Star Trek Discovery, because it was a success, it wouldn't have got 5 seasons otherwise. If it wasn't for the success of Discovery, Strange New Worlds would never have been. And a big part of that
Great.
goes to Anson Mount and his portrayal of Captain Pike.
Yeah, and lo- alongside was the testers of some of the shorts as well, and Spock's performance, or Spock's uh, actor there as well.
Ethan
They
Peck.
done a
Is it Ethan
phenomenal job.
Peck?
Yes, as Ethan Peck, yeah,
He's
and
fantastic as Spock. I mean, I thought Zachary Quinto was brilliant in the Abramsverse version. But in my eyes, Ethan Peck just knocks him out of the park.
Yeah, no, I completely agree that, and this is why I considered it a sequel to Discovery because it's what they did on there and what everybody thought about their performances on there that made this happen. And yeah, I love the performance of uh, whether it's Spock, whether it's Pike, whether it's Number One, whether it's Uhura, Nan. Oh, not Nan. Nan's Discovery, and um,
Thinking about Noonien soon.
um, Nanny and Singh. Yeah, sorry, thank you. You know what I'm thinking about, and all the other characters there. Whether I'm not going to name them all, they've been great and made a thrilling story for me. And I haven't done my list yet for sequels, but I'm definitely going to consider it for that the whole season,
I'll tell you
the whole
what,
series.
as well, I'm going to make a special mention to a kind of prequel that I've just thought of in this moment that you see during Strange New Worlds. And this kind of prequel is the episode where Noonien Singh ends up in the past with Kirk, Kirk from another universe, by the way, but more on
Yeah,
that later. And all of the events that happen lead to her coming face to face with Khan as a child. And she has a very interesting decision to make at that very moment. And that I think is a beautiful little nod and a very kind of lightly hinted prequel to everything that comes with Khan afterwards.
yeah, no, definitely, and yeah, it's that eternal question of what if a relative of Hitler went back in time and is like, yeah,
Yeah.
would you do it? It's yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I'm glad you picked that, and yeah,
Thank
thank you very
you.
much.
No, 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 thank you, mate. Now drum rolls for Ben's number one.
So I've sort of it's definitely been mentioned before by Olympus, even though it wasn't picked, and it's definitely referenced by me, and that is Rogue One. So this is the prequel to A New Hope, literally the opening crawl to A New Hope. Going back, getting the plans for the Death Star, and this is how they did it. To me, it is an outstanding film. At the moment, it still stands as my favourite Star Wars film. Then going on, you got them all getting together with like Andor, K2SO, Urso, getting together and then being eventually going on this mission to find the other Urso to go and get these plans and bring them back to Leia via the ships with Darth Vader chasing after them, and literally lead straight into the film, which I wanted to watch straight after seeing it in the cinema. And every time I see the film, I just want to go straight into A New Hope. It's in my heart amazing and full of great characters in there. It's probably my favourite droid from Star Wars. It's a couple of favourite lines as well. I might have probably mentioned them in the quotes. And love it, love it, love this group of misfits getting together and even being misfits to the misfits. It's Olympus. Do you have anything to say?
It's a beautiful movie, and for so many reasons. I'm going to take a side step for a moment. You do know that we are seeing K2SO in Andor season 2.
I believe so. I believe that's
He's
been
in the trailer. He's in the
mentioned.
trailer, mate. He's going to be there. He's in the trailer.
You sure it's the actual K2SO or it's not one of the other replicas that we see in Rogue One? Dinner so nearly or does actually shoot.
Well, that's just upset me a little bit. It very well might not be K2SO, but I'm going to believe it is K2SO. Um, he's a great light-hearted touch to the movie, and yet adds a lot of seriousness to it and plays a pivotal role as well. He's a great character.
Yeah,
It's to go back again, I guess it is beautiful. It tells a tale that we already know how it ends, but it does it almost flawlessly. You've got a couple of lovely cameos done in, I think, rather respectful ways. Cinematography is fantastic. The special effects are great. The battles, I mean, we talked about one of the specific space battles in a recent episode of Duels, top 5 battles.
battles.
So, guys, go see that. There's my shameless plug. And yeah, there's some great acting, great story, great visuals, and again, Star Wars to its core. It's a proper Star Wars story, and I got the same feeling as soon as I finished watching it. I wanted to watch A New Hope because it just brings that nostalgia at the same time, and it's lovingly tragic too. I'll round off my little note on this by saying that one of my favourite Darth Vader scenes of all time is in this movie. That's when the lightsaber comes to life in this super dark corridor, and you just have Darth Vader illuminated. Williams is going absolutely mental, turning a piano on fire as he is just obliterating rebel soldiers. It's sheer brutality and really displays his force of nature and just how effing terrifying he is.
Yeah.
And I will give a shout out to the Darth Vader at Disneyland Paris, who I witnessed, and I give credit to my daughter for not really being phased by him at all because I was moopsing terrified. He was good. Well done to him.
Okay. No, glad to hear it. And I know I said K2SO is one of my favourite droids, or probably my favourite droid. He is definitely one of my favourite characters as well. So thumbs up to that character. Olympus. What is your number one pick?
I'm going to give you one guess. You've got the guess. Well done. It's Revenge of the Sith. You can see the film stills behind me actually. I've got what's that, 4, 8, 9, 10. I've got 10 film stills on the wall behind me there. It's not lit up at the minute. But they're all stills from Star Wars Episode 3. It's it's always going to be the movie for me that completes the Star Wars story. And that was a story that began with A New Hope before it was even called A New Hope. And you had all these references, bearing in mind when Star Wars first came out, you had all these references to things like the Clone Wars, and all these historic nods to events and things that we'd never heard of. And after all 3 movies were done and dusted, you had all those questions in the air, and you didn't think you were ever going to hear of them again. And you thought you'd be left in that ambiguity, and we were all happy with that because it was a beautiful trilogy. And then Lucas decided to turn around for whatever reason, who knows, probably money, but decide to make the prequel trilogy, which I'll be forever grateful for. But it was episode 3 for me that brought it all together. And again, I'll say the music, the cinematography, the special effects, the acting, the story were all brilliant the whole way through. I mean, if you think about the story in The Phantom Menace, It was a bit shaky, but the movie was good because Liam Neeson was in it. Episode 2,
Of course.
again, story was a little bit shaky, but it had some better grounding on it versus The Phantom Menace. And Ewan McGregor was a much better Obi-Wan Kenobi in that one because he'd actually found his place a bit more. And that's not me dissing him in A Phantom Menace because I love his portrayal of Obi-Wan Kenobi in The Phantom Menace, just to say. It's just he's like Padawan following Master there, whereas he's really come into his own in Attack of the Clones. That's what I mean. It's the character development. I loved seeing it.
Has shown it well.
Exactly. And then you also get to see Yoda bouncing around all over Count Dooku like this little crazy green thing on drugs. That was hilarious and cool at the same time. I loved it. Um, but, there was Christopher Lee as well, playing a super cool bad guy with a lightsaber hilt that curves. I mean, come on. And you got to see that in episode 3 as well, which is how that ties back in, because now I'm just talking about all 3 movies. So I'll go back to episode 3. But the way it culminates the story of Anakin Skywalker, the way it tells the story of how the Jedi fall, the tragedy of Order 66 and how that all comes about, Anakin's fall, which is delivered spectacularly, and poor Hayden Christensen getting so much hate for so long for portraying Anakin in what I can only describe as being the best way he could have, and anyone else could have. I mean, I can't imagine Anakin Skywalker being played by anyone other than him. And actually, I will take my hat off and give credit to the voice actor who plays Anakin Skywalker in the Clone Wars, because I think he played a big part in reviving the love of that character and the love of Hayden through that too. He does that very, very well. But yeah, ultimately, it's a beautiful, tragic movie, which again, similar to Rogue One, you know how it ends. But that didn't
Yeah.
stop you or impact your enjoyment of the movie in any way whatsoever. And the emotion that you felt at key parts with, for me anyway, was really, really powerful. I'll stop rambling for my love of my number 1 pick, which is Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
Oh no, I'm glad you picked that. Oh, if you were listening to this on Apple Podcasts, you probably missed me putting up how many fingers the was reference. I put up 3 fingers, going, yeah, I sort of half knew it was going to be that. So no, I'm glad you picked it. There were some great battles in that, some good acting with, especially with Obi-Wan Kenobi. I love love that was Ewan
Oh
McGregor.
yeah. Ewan McGregor knocks it out of the park in that movie. And it's also how much of his character you can see so much of Alec Guinness in his character by that point as well, which is beautiful. He still kept it his own um whilst delivering that respect to Alec Guinness and what Obi-Wan Kenobi was going to become.
Oh, cool. No, I'm glad you did. So I suppose we got honourable mentions and the scores on the doors. Shall we go? Which one do you want first?
Schools and the Doors. I have a
Yes,
feeling it's going to be tight, but I think Star Wars might have clinched it this time.
I have, and I was very close to doing a 4-1 score on mine up until probably the last half an hour, like you. So it was nearly a 5-all draw, but it's a 6-4 victory for Star Wars in this one.
Well done, Star
So
Wars.
yay. So honourable mentions. I'm going to quickly go over mine. So I had Enterprise as a whole for my honourable mention, but because I picked a few episodes, I decided not to put it in. Strange New Worlds as well. That I did consider that, but because of my rules, I decided not to put it in. Then we got a couple more episodes from Enterprise, Carbon Creek, which sees T'Pol's grandparents on Earth being the unofficial first contact, and also First Flight, which is I think the first Warp 2 flight, which T'Pol and Archer are talking about when their friends passed away. And then I wanted to also highlight the Acolyte, which had, in my opinion, a solid first season
I
and
agree.
solid first episode.
It's a shame. It's a shame
And
it's
would have
not
been,
continuing.
yeah, but yeah, that's it. So, any other thoughts, or what are your honourable mentions, Olympus?
So yeah, my honourable mentions. So we've got the Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, the Clone Wars series, The Mandalorian as a series as well, especially the first two seasons of it. Though I love how we see more of Bo-Katan in season 3. Not gonna lie, I love Katie Sackhoff. Enterprise is on there as well as Discovery. And then I've also added a few games, specifically Knights of
Ooh,
the Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic 2, Star Wars The Old Republic, and Star Wars Jedi, both Fallen Order and Survivor. All of them are prequels in their own rights. As much as you can argue they
yeah,
might
great.
not be alpha canon, they are 100% prequels. Um, and that's before you get onto the books. You know, the number of books that we have actually in this area of media surrounding everything from Thrawn to the High Republic and everything in between is insane. So, strongly recommend people look those out.
Definitely. And yeah, no, go for it. And I did have a tiebreaker because I did put up in the community tab of TrekWars and Fantasy on YouTube. What was everybody's best prequel from Star Trek and Star Wars franchises? So I had Star Wars Revenge of the Sith there. I had Star Trek Enterprise, Star Wars Rogue One, and Star Trek Discovery. This was a very interesting result in my head for various reasons. I had 19 votes. What do you reckon the person results wise that went? Either percentage or a reverse order pick,
Mm.
or even not necessarily reverse order. Any
So,
orders of picks.
so I don't know yet because I've not actually voted yet, which is terrible of me. So I'm gonna wait. Look, just to prove, right? I've not voted yet, so I can't see the outcome. Okay.
Ooh.
So your question is, how is this weighted? So we've got Revenge of the Sith, Enterprise, Rogue One, and Discovery. The best prequel has it's going to be between Rogue One and Revenge of the Sith. It's got to be Revenge of the Sith, and this is where you tell me that Star Trek Enterprise won it because all the people that jumped in were all super Trekky. Am I right?
Not quite, nearly. Um, you know, Revenge of the Sith took a very early lead
No,
with
don't tell me it
this.
lost. How did it lose?
So everyone had a vote, at least one vote, and was 21% of the vote. You had a joint third. That was Star Trek Discovery, which I was actually expected to get no votes, but
Yeah.
so that's done really well. And then you had Revenge of the Sith,
No, you son of a
also
bitch.
on
No way.
21%.
No.
Yeah,
That's
you can verify
terrible.
that in a minute, but you will be adding a vote to it. Um,
Community, I am
then you have
disappointed.
yeah. So the next two, number two had 26%,
That's
number
Enterprise.
one had 32%, and yeah, that was Enterprise on 26.
Yeah,
And then
Rogue One
Star
deserves the
Wars
top
Rogue One
spot there.
32.
Yeah. If people weren't going to vote for Revenge of the Sith, then they most definitely should have voted for Rogue One. So no, I'll give them that. Now, hang on a minute, because I'm going to vote Revenge of the Sith now.
At one point, when I think I took a picture yesterday, was 10 votes taken. It was 40%
Oh,
Revenge of the Sith, and then 20% for the other three.
son of a bitch,
So
something's changed. Well, there you go.
yeah,
I've just voted for Revenge of the Sith. We now have a joint second place.
yay!
That's
That's
better.
I like. I love how close this really was in this, and all four of them got multiple votes.
Yeah,
So
that's really, really nice, actually. That's a really good poll and a really good turnout. So thank you to everyone who jumped in and voted there. That is brilliant. You can see how much I cared about it as well. You Moopsies. How dare you not have Revenge
Yeah,
of the Sith in the spotlight? I am glad Rogue One won, though. Rogue One is spectacular in its own right.
no. I say thank you for watching, and
Hmm.
Olympus, where can we find you? So please come and see or anything else we do. Olympus definitely does some stuff by himself. So Olympus, where can we find you?
Yeah, try and stream when I can. However, curries are being moopsies in sorting out my gaming PC, so I've been struggling a little bit on that front recently. But I am trying to get on Twitch as and when I can. So you'll find me on Twitch there at Olympus0511. You can get me on different socials such as Twitter, Bluesky, and TikTok. I was trying to think what the other one was there. That's also Olympus0511, and I'm on YouTube, Olympus0511. And of course, if you are on Ben's incredible TrekWars Fantasy YouTube page, then you will find me on some of the content on there, joining him too, which I'm always very, very privileged and very happy to be a part of.
I'm always glad you're here, and thank you very much for being
Oh,
here all the time. So yeah, I'm at Trek Wars and Fantasy and Trek Wars Fantasy on Twitter. I think I'm full name Trek Wars and Fantasy on Blue Sky. I'm on Twitch as well. I'm streaming there. We're getting very close to having 50 followers or subscribers, whatever they
yes.
call them on there. So I'm 5 off. So I love that. I've been mainly doing Star Wars and Star Trek games, mostly Star Wars at the moment, but I've been trying to get onto doing both. Yeah, thank you all for being here, and may the force be with you
May the force be
always.
with you, everyone. Thank you.